Hollywood likes to pretend it's complicated. They'll say a movie bombed because audiences weren't ready, or that it flopped because of toxic fandom, or that the marketing department didn't do enough TikTok dances with the cast. There's always a reason that has nothing to do with the product or the people in it. Then, a movie like The Housemaid comes along. No cultural lectures, no big IP, no CGI, no multiverse cameos. Just Sydney Sweeney being Sydney Sweeney. Suddenly, the thing prints money overseas, and everyone in town is staring at the box office mojo page like it's showing the second coming of Christ. You know what this is called? Reality. The kind Hollywood preaches doesn't exist, until someone attractive shows up and reminds them. At first glance, The Housemaid looks like the kind of movie Hollywood quietly buries between two franchise releases. No capes, no cameos, no cinematic universe roadmap. Just a thriller about a seductress getting hired by a wealthy couple. In any era, it'd be described as a movie. But in 2026, we treat these like they're independent fossils dug out of amber. And yet, it hit. Not broke movie star drought at the domestic box office hit, but hit enough overseas to make studio analysts perk up like someone just tased them. According to The Hollywood Reporter, the film is pulling in real numbers in markets that supposedly don't care about mid-budget, non-franchise, non-empowerment movies anymore. Turns out they do. Turns out audiences everywhere will still show up for a beautiful woman in a thriller, because the last 100 years of cinema weren't a prank. But here's the funny part. The industry didn't attribute its success to the obvious factor. No, the narrative immediately shifted to director Paul Feig cracking the code and reinventing the erotic thriller. Sure, man, and Little Caesars makes the best pizza. There was no code to crack. Hollywood just had to remember one thing, that human desire hasn't been patched out of the operating system. Beauty is the oldest special effect in the business. You don't need a render farm for it. You don't even need Dolby Atmos. You just need a face, or something else, that other people want to look at and get a good sense not to pretend that it's a bad thing. The Housemaid did that. Not because Paul Feig discovered fire, but because Sydney Sweeney walked on screen. It's not sexism, it's economics. It's one thing to be famous, it's another thing to be profitable. Hollywood keeps confusing the two, which is how we end up with actors who get put in 5 movies in a row despite never moving the needle beyond polite applause. See Rachel Zegler. Being a celebrity doesn't mean you sell anything, it just means you exist at an award show for a few years until streaming reabsorbs you like a melting popsicle. Sydney Sweeney, on the other hand, sells. She sells movies, she sells TV, she sells soap, she sells jeans, she sells memes, she sells TikTok edits, she sells the fantasy that attractive people still exist in entertainment, and she does it without lecturing the audience or apologizing for being attractive. It's almost like she understands the job. The soap was the first warning shot. It sold out instantly and kept selling until the manufacturer ran out of inventory. The jeans ad was the second. Everyone pretended to be offended on Twitter, then immediately watched it again, and again, and again, and guess what happened? Sales went up, engagement went up, clips went viral. Dudes liked the ad for obvious reasons, and women bought the jeans anyway, because desire gaps don't actually cancel commerce, they fuel it. That's the thing nobody in the body positivity think piece economy wants to acknowledge. Female beauty monetizes across 3 demographic vectors simultaneously. Number 1, male desire, the most ancient marketing channel in human history. Number 2, female aspiration, because no woman buys jeans to look worse. And number 3, female envy. The hate watch share is still a share. You can build an entire consumer products empire off those 3 alone, and Hollywood used to do exactly that, right up until they convinced themselves that attractiveness was outdated, colonial, patriarchal, and problematic. A bold ideological stance that just so happens to cut directly into their own revenue model. Sydney Sweeney is proof that this still works. Not because the internet drools over her, that's obvious, but because the marketplace converts that drool into money. Box office, products, brand partnerships, licensing, international distribution, audience retention, viral marketing, all of it. It's not sexism, that's a return on investment. Before The Housemaid, Paul Feig's cinematic business model was built off 2 pillars, empowerment and Melissa McCarthy falling down. For a surprising number of years, it worked. Bridesmaids hit. Spy hit. The Heat did well. For a minute there, you could convince yourself that Feig had found the cheat code to female-centered comedies. The studio congratulated themselves, the media wrote glowing postmortems, and every panel discussion at South by Southwest suddenly sounded like a cultural anthropology lecture. Then Feig tried to scale the model. Instead of making comedies about women, he started making movies about women that were secretly arguments against the audience he needed to show up. The apex of this era was the hit 2016 film Ghostbusters, a $144 million IP reboot that treated fans like they were lucky to be invited and ungrateful for not applauding fast enough. Instead of selling fun, it sold chastisement. Instead of selling nostalgia, it sold ideology. And instead of selling comedy, it sold the cinematic equivalent of a mandatory HR meeting where you're told that you're manspreading. That's just not fun. But the funniest part of all of this is that Feig and the studio pretended it was the audience's fault. The marketing campaign went out of its way to frame skepticism as sexism, negative reviews as harassment, and consumer indifference as a political crisis. The movie became a referendum that it never earned, and the box office treated it accordingly. Turns out that if you take a beloved male-coded property and replace all the men with women, you don't automatically inherit the male audience or generate new female ones. The female audience didn't particularly want Ghostbusters to begin with, and the male audience wasn't promised anything that aligned with why they liked Ghostbusters in the first place. That's not misogyny, it's not the patriarchy, it's just market segmentation. Compare that to The Housemaid, where Feig didn't try to force a cultural argument into the runtime, he just put Sydney Sweeney on screen and let her do the talking. Suddenly, the economics made sense again. No lecture, no fan-shaming, no op-eds about the discourse, just supply meeting demand. It's almost like Paul Feig didn't crack the code, he simply stopped working against the audience on purpose. Hollywood has spent a decade pretending that beauty was optional and desire was outdated. Ghostbusters died on that hill. The Housemaid, on the other hand, disapproves the entire premise of that in under 2 hours. There's a very specific demographic that hates Sydney Sweeney, and it's not men. Men don't write 3,000-word medium essays about how an attractive actress is objectifying herself by being hot. We just buy the ticket, we watch the movie, maybe Google her later or before, and that's about it. The people who foam at the mouth about Sydney Sweeney's existence are what we politely refer to as cat ladies here on this channel. Now, cat ladies are not exclusively women. Some are men, some are non-binary, all are spiritually the same creature, chronically online, deeply insecure, allergic to sexual dimorphism, and convinced that beauty is a right-wing conspiracy designed to oppress them personally. If Sydney Sweeney existed in the 1940s, the cat ladies would accuse her of being the Aryan Helen of Troy. Their core grievance isn't political, it's market-based. Sydney Sweeney disproves their theology. She's attractive, she's feminine, she's successful, men like her, women buy what she sells, and the marketplace rewards her without the need for cultural permission slips. That's intolerable if you built your entire worldview around the idea that beauty should be abolished because you didn't get any. This is why cat ladies perform a strange rhetorical gymnastics routine whenever Sydney Sweeney shows up. They try to claim she's ugly. She isn't. Or that she's only famous because of the male gaze. Meanwhile, the most interaction they've had with the male gaze is accidentally walking in front of traffic. What cat ladies actually want is a world where attractiveness doesn't matter. The problem is, the real world isn't Pinterest. It's a marketplace. You don't get to negotiate with biology. You don't get to shame customers into wanting what they don't want. And you certainly don't get to bully a billion-year-old evolutionary preference out of the species because it hurts your feelings. Hollywood has tried to endorse cat lady economics for a decade. They promoted representation over desirability, condescension over fantasy, and empowerment over sex appeal. Then they stared at the box office and couldn't figure out why nothing was working. Meanwhile, Sydney Sweeney shows up in a thriller wearing lingerie and looking like an actual movie star, and suddenly we're reminded that the marketplace never stopped caring. Hollywood just stopped selling. The cat ladies can scream on Twitter all they want, but the receipts go in the other direction. You don't have to like it, you just have to accept it that the market doesn't care about your ideology. If you want to understand how far Hollywood has drifted from reality, you don't need a spreadsheet, you just need to look at the Lizzo arc. For years, the entertainment press propped Lizzo up as proof that beauty standards were a social construct and that health was a bigoted dog whistle invented by gyms and doctors. Magazine covers declared her an icon, late night treated her like a revolutionary, and social media performed synchronized self-esteem dances in her honor. Then Lizzo did the one thing that was never allowed. She got healthy. She lost weight, she talked about feeling better, and praised the virtues of exercise. And then, the same press that called her a hero suddenly treated her like a Soviet defector. Overnight, Lizzo went from brave for existing to problematic for improving. The ideology collapsed the moment it encountered biology. This tells you everything you need to know about the body positivity industrial complex. It was never about empowerment. It was always about maintaining the narrative. The narrative that beauty standards were fake, desire was optional, and that you could guilt the marketplace into buying whatever you told them was beautiful. Spoiler alert, you can't. Commerce doesn't care about your self-esteem. Commerce doesn't care about your feelings. Commerce cares about demand, and demand has been shaped by millions and millions of years of evolution that don't read BuzzFeed articles for moral guidance. This is why Lizzo got media acclaim and Sydney Sweeney gets money. One is an ideological mascot, the other is a functional product. The market rewards the latter every time because the market isn't progressive or conservative, it's amoral. It's simply trying to figure out what moves units, and Beautiful Woman Sells Things is one of the most proven economic phenomena in history. The irony is that the entertainment industry has spent a decade lecturing the audience about how beauty standards were oppressive, only to rediscover that the audience never stopped preferring attractive people. If they had, perfume ads would be starring podcasters, and Amy Schumer would still be relevant. The success of The Housemaid isn't an anomaly, it's a reminder. A reminder that the movie business didn't die, it just spent 10 years trying to sell homework as entertainment. It tried to replace desire with empowerment, fantasy with messaging, and beautiful people with relatable people. The audience tolerated this era the way you tolerate a friend's experimental band, from a safe distance. Then some attractive people showed up and the box office started acting like it remembered how to metabolize currency. This is the part where the think piece writers will try to moralize it. But isn't it sad that beauty sells?
Shut up, bitch!
That's why cinema exists. If you don't believe me, go look at the posters for literally every movie star Hollywood has ever paid. The entire medium is built on desire, glamour, sex, danger, excitement, and aspiration. If you want realism and a refusal to objectify anyone, we already have that at the DMV. The funny thing is, the market didn't change, the audience didn't change, biology didn't change, only entertainment changed. And not for artistic reason, for ideological ones. They thought they could brute force a new reality through marketing and shame. Turns out reality didn't sign the contract. Sydney Sweeney's current run isn't a fluke, it's a correction. It's the market grabbing Hollywood by the head and shoving its face into the numbers like, look at it! Look at it! Stop pretending people don't like attractive women in movies! This isn't sexism, misogyny, or any of the academic synonyms for the audience bought something I disapprove of. It's economics. Will the studios learn from this? Maybe. Hollywood loves money and has a long history of abandoning bad ideas once they stop being subsidized by venture capital and editorial enthusiasm. The press will not be happy about it. The cat ladies will be furious about it. But the studio accountants will float the possibility that maybe, just maybe, giving audiences things they actually like is a decent business strategy. Imagine that. So no, The Housemaid isn't just a movie, it's a recalibration, a clue, a blinking neon sign pointing to the most consistent truth in entertainment. Beauty sells, desire sells, sex sells. Stop pretending otherwise. Sydney Sweeney is proof the audience never left. Hollywood did. Now it's crawling back, and the market is already holding the door open. For a price.